It started.
All right. Hello, everyone, and namaste. Welcome to another episode of GrowthFit interview series presented by CustomFit.ai. My name is Nischala Agnihotri, and I'm a story scientist at CustomFit.ai. Uh, Let me tell you quickly about a little bit about CustomFit. Uh, CustomFit is a personalization engine designed to help B2B companies to convert their website traffic into quality leads by dynamically changing website content, CTAs, and a lot of other content assets. The beauty is it's a no-code platform for marketers, and it has a very intuitive interface that helps B2B marketers to improve their conversion rates and lift it with an exponential percentage. And today, our guest, we are very honored to host you, Mark. Our guest is Mark Kilens, VP Content and Community from Drift. He oversees Drift's content strategy, the Drift Insider, which is a community with over 35,000 members, L&D functions, the rev growth, and a lot of other hyper growth events. He's a seasoned inbound marketer, and if you go to him for a quick advice on content and community building, he would say, I would invest in entertainment and education. Mark, I have a very personal curious question, which is that how do you manage time with so much of public engagement?
Well, first off, thanks for having me on the show. It's nice to speak with everyone today. One of the things that I've really focused on over the last 15 years is developing a personal operating system for myself. And I constantly are searching for ways to improve my personal operating system as things in my life change. So as an example, I recently had, my wife and I recently had our first child, and that made me change my personal operating system in terms of how I prioritize things, the systems I used, and the tools I used to take care of my family, do my job, do things that I am passionate about outside of my job. So the net of that, the net answer to your question is develop a personal operating system, and you'll be able to use that to create a life that's hopefully really fulfilling, but also, help you focus on the things that matter to you and say no to the things that don't matter. And a lot of the times when I do conversations like this, it's a matter of me paying back in some ways, but also learning from the conversation itself.
Wow. Do you blog about it? Do you talk about it somewhere? I guess we need to have another interview exclusively to figure out how do we develop these personal operating systems for each one of us.
I haven't really talked too much about it publicly. I've probably done a couple of LinkedIn posts about it. There's a lot of content on the internet. If you Google like a personal operating system, you'll find a ton of things. Like Tim Ferriss, some of the stuff that he has, talked about for a long time is kind of getting at that essence. But to me, like, you got to live a life that's rooted in like principle and purpose, and then you need some way to manage time, because time is the most precious asset. So having a way to live your life that's more deliberate, but also free floating. It's not just like everything has to be planned out perfectly. There should be time for things that come up, white space, if you will, empty time that you use as you see fit. But at the end of the day, there should be some type of structure, and I've developed this personal operating system to help me with that structure.
Awesome. So let me jump onto the first question that we have. And when I was researching a little bit about you, I saw this statement that said, stop leaving money on the table. What has this got to do with creating great customer experiences?
Well, there's a lot of things, right? Could you provide context, I guess, to that question? Stop leaving money on the table. There's a lot of ways I could answer that. So is in the context of you
It,
selling something, or like, yeah, unpack that question a bit for me.
yeah. So I actually spotted this in one of your webinars where that was all about how to 10x your marketing ROI with personalized experience that can scale.
Mm.
And you said stop leaving money on the table because it's all tied back to creating great experiences, which is again tied back to being able to scale personalized experiences for your customers.
Yeah, I mean, in that context, it's around you're probably missing out. Um, you're probably missing out on engaging with customers and buyers
Mm.
when they come to, for most of us, our most important assets for both salespeople and marketers is the website. So
Mm.
you're leaving money on the table if you're not creating great digital first experiences, especially because of this very unfortunate situation we've all had to live through, which is this pandemic, which was a trigger point. It was a trigger point for all of our habits and routines and patterns, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them to change. And that then has really forced us to think about, as marketers, as salespeople, how do we make sure that we are providing the best possible experience when we have a customer and a buyer that visits our website, that they want to engage with us and they need our help. But if we don't make it easy and personalized, we're, like you just said, missing an opportunity, leaving some money on the table. Because in my opinion, every interaction matters, no matter how big or small. So every chance that you have to engage with someone is an opportunity for you to build that trust, to build that relationship with your
Mm.
brand, with your business.
Mm.
And personalization at scale is something that has been talked about for a while. I think it's
Mm.
starting to finally come to fruition with more tools and technologies that allow a marketer and salesperson to personalize the experience at scale by taking the machine out of the person and making the person more focused on the customer, making the seller, the marketer more focused on the customer. So that's some high level thoughts around that, but it's no longer a nice to do or nice to have. It's a must do. You must figure out a way to create a more engaging and one-to-one experience for anyone who's visiting your website, engaging with your marketing and sales teams.
That's awesome to hear, and that's sort of validating and gratifying for all the effort that we put behind creating custom fit, because that's a whole and soul of that's a problem that we are really trying to solve for marketers and especially B2B marketers, wherein with very few rules and a little bit of segmentation, we are able to provide that kind of a personalization, website personalization at scale for many of our customers who've been with us. And my next question is around, we use data to hyper personalize all the time, right? But what is it according to you? And we know we bring in data points here and there, right? But it is scattered all the time. And what actually puts data into action is the context. So, what, according to you, is that creates human to human connection when we are digging deep with data, and especially when we are in a hyper personalization exercise?
Yeah, I mean that's a simple one to me. For me, it's conversation. It's the power of the conversation.
Mm.
Conversational data is, I really believe, and we believe this at Drift, which is a revenue acceleration platform, right? And we use the power of conversational marketing and sales to unify marketing and sales teams to engage customers when and how they want to engage on their preference, on their preferred terms.
Mm.
So when you think about conversations, like what we're doing right now, there's this engagement that happens, there's a shared level of understanding that happens, there's typically recommendations that happen throughout the conversation, but there's all of this information, almost like metadata, if you will, that is so valuable for both marketers and salespeople and customer success people, product people to use to create better brand experiences, better content, better products, better features. And that's where the gold lies. It lies in the conversational data, and we need now, good technology. We have conversational insights that's powered by AI at Drift to be able to parse through all this conversational data that we're creating every second, every minute of every day, and use that to both, like we said before, personalize the experience for a customer, but then also use that as insight, as both like proactive and reactive ways to create like new products and experiences for people. So for me, it lies in the power of the conversation, and that's where I think marketing is really going, because at the end of the day, no matter if you're B2C or B2B, you're trying to build a relationship with someone. You're trying to establish a relationship, and a relationship does not get established unless there are conversations. Like either within a community, in a one-to-one way with a salesperson or a customer success person. Like there has to be some type of connection through conversation that happens, and that might be in an event. It might not be just through an online forum. It might be a virtual event, an in-person event. But the conversation itself is the way that you create that connection, that relationship, and establish that trust. So if marketers can focus more on using that thing, conversations, as a way to build their brands and create customers for life, I believe that's where the real data and insight lies.
Got that. Awesome. Mark, do you want to step back on camera?
Oh, is this was this just audio or is this video too?
It's video too.
Oh, I didn't know that. Sorry, no one gave me a heads up. I'm in a pretty dark room. Sorry.
That's fine.
All right, no problem.
Yeah. That was very resourceful. Thank you, Mark. So my next question is sort of towards, when we started GrowthFit series, let me tie the question back to some context. The marketers who we had on board, and especially B2B marketers, we used to ask one question consistently, and that was, what are the top 3 sources that you use to learn about marketing and, spruce up your knowledge, go on that continuous learning? What are the top 3 sources? And almost 80% of them had Drift as their one of the top 3 sources they used to help them develop professionally and as a marketer and learn marketing, right? So we know what Drift is from a learning perspective. Marketers really depend on the content that's produced by Drift. So I'm sure at the back, behind the scenes of Drift, there's a lot happening with content strategy, right? So what is the content strategy that you implemented for Drift, and what were the things that you realized, because you came from HubSpot to Drift, so what were those things that you realized during transition that had to be changed quickly? And tell us a little bit about when did you change it, why did you change it, and things like that.
My content strategy is very much a function of community building. So I mean, the best content marketers put the customer at the center of anything they do. Like number one, like the best place to learn is through your customers, and then other people in your category or your industry or tangential categories or industries. So yes, you should definitely skill yourself up on like channel tactics and copywriting and these more like marketing centric, content marketing centric type of skills. But at the end of the day, it's about storytelling. It's about inspiring people. It's about educating them about something that's unique to your business. And it's about, for me at least, the places that I've worked is about creating like a movement. So I have this idea that I've used for a while now called cornerstone content. And these cornerstone content assets create gravitational pull around them. And there's 6 types of cornerstone content assets that you should use at some point. We use all of them at Drift, but in the beginning you would not use all of these. You would pick one or two to use, and then you would create, if you think about a solar system and in each of these different cornerstone pieces of content being a planet, you would create moons or things that orbit around them that are, that are basically in some ways micro content from these cornerstone content assets. But you could also create a cornerstone content asset from another cornerstone. So the 6 types are books, and books could be in the digital format or in the print format. We've done both at Drift. You have courses. So a course could be with an assessment or without an assessment, aka certification. Right? You have events. Events is content. An event is content and experience, and it's really brand experience. So how you create a successful event is really rooted in the design of what people are going to be learning and what they're going to be experiencing. So for me, it's a virtual event or an in-person event. It all starts with content. It's one of the reasons why we've at Drift have the event team underneath. We're coupled with the content team. So you have those 3. Another one is customer stories. Customer stories is a cornerstone piece of content. I'm not talking case studies. I'm talking a full-on package of how a customer has achieved some level of mastery with your solution, and the examples that go along with that, and the proof, and how they did it, and why they did it. So both high level and a lot of details around that. And that can be packaged up into a variety of different formats, right? It could be taught through a class. Here's how a customer actually did this in a structured learning way, or it could be just done through just a typical website page. So that's another one. A 5th one would be research, and research can be stuff that you create as a first party type of research piece of content. So you're doing the research and you're publishing a report. It could also just be in presentation format, right? So it's like you're going to be collecting third-party data from that research that you're finding online, and you're going to be creating a presentation or report using third-party data and or maybe some of your first-party data, and you're trying to really, create some type of point of view around that. So I think that one is super interesting. Because data, having legit data, is super powerful these days, and you can use that one in particular. You can use across all of these other these cornerstone content asset types. And the last one would be shows, and a show could be episodic, it could be video based, it could be podcast based. But having a show, which is more media centric type content, if you will, is paramount. Drift has 6 podcasts. We have a no filter show that's 3 seasons deep now. Shows are amazing, and then what you can do is you can build this cornerstone content asset from either an agile method or more of a Scrum backwards top down method, meaning you publish the asset and then you break it up, or you publish a series of assets and then you build those cornerstone content assets because you've created a series of assets, such as a series of podcast shows could eventually become a book. We did that at Drift. We wrote a CMO secrets book based off of 9 or so conversations we've had with CMOs. So again, cornerstone content can create other cornerstone content, but cornerstone content can also create a lot of great micro content that you use appropriately across all of your distribution channels, all of the channels that you have available, the ones that you own and the ones that you rent. And I think a concept that's becoming more and more apparent around this is a company called Casted, and they talk about amplified marketing. Amplified marketing is a lot of what I'm talking about right now. You're using these different assets to amplify the reach of your message to your audience through different channels, but also breaking up the content so it's consistent. When people see this across an integrated customer journey, they see this content and they see the messaging is consistent, but the ways in which they can engage with it is personalized to how they want to engage with it, going back to what we talked about 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, amazing. So How do you pick on what asset actually works? You've listed so many of them, but then how do you go about picking which asset should I be investing in and things like that?
You got to look at your audience, your goals, like so like just what are you trying to do, what numbers are you trying to move, and then competition. Those are the three things I would look at when trying to pick what asset type to maybe create for a particular thing.
That's amazing. And on a signing off note, we ask this to all our guests. What would be your advice, top 3 or 5 things that you would want to share with aspiring marketers?
I mean, study human psychology, human behavior, study patterns that are happening out in the world that are unrelated to your industry. So patterns, habits, routines, like pattern study, like be an anthropologist, if you will. I think it's super important. Study
Yeah.
copywriting. Get as close as you can to your customers. I joined 5 sales calls, customer calls a week. I've already done
Wow.
3 or 4 this week.
Mm.
Talk to customers, study
Mm.
customers, talk to your customer success team, talk to your product team, um, and practice. Like practice creating a lot of content. Like create a lot. Like don't like spend 3 months writing this whole thing and creating nothing else. Even if you don't publish what you create, you still should be in creation mode. You should always be trying to create, because that's like it's like getting it's like getting fit, if you will. If you really want to get fit, you're gonna create a habit. Atomic Habits, The Power of Habit, any of those books. Like you need to build those muscles, and you need to build your content muscles up by creating on a regular basis.
Wow, wow. Half of the books that you just mentioned, Tim Ferriss or Atomic Habits by James Clear, we've all read it, but I think putting it in the context of content strategy, that's something that probably we connected the dots there through this interview today. So that was amazing. Thank you so much for your time. And would there be something that you want to share as a signing off note?
I mean, you already mentioned Drift Insider. Drift Insider is a free content and learning community for marketing and sales folks. We're actually getting close to 50,000 members now. Love to have you folks check that out. But yeah, I mean, if you have any other questions, you can find me on LinkedIn, find me on Twitter. Happy to answer them. But I'd say, stay curious. Like find something that you really love learning about,
Mm.
and follow that, because that's where the magic happens.
Awesome. I think you were one of those few people who's been very approachable on LinkedIn. Thank you so much once again for joining.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.